Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this video, I will be deciphering the mains General Studies Paper 1 syllabus. So the understanding of General Studies Paper 1 is very much necessary in order to prepare in a proper direction. So initially when we begin, there are plenty of sources and we often get confused what to read and what to skip. And when it comes to mains, especially GS1, we do not have one single book which comprehensively covers all the topics. So we are supposed to refer multiple books in order to prepare notes for mains. So when we are doing this exercise, we need to have two things in our mind. One is the detailed syllabus which has been given here, and the next is the demand of the examination. So when we have these two things, then we can prepare as per the demand of the examination, and definitely we can excel in our upcoming attempt. So the first step I would urge all the aspirants would be to memorize the syllabus. So often most of them say that why memorization is required, memorization is not required. We may keep a syllabus copy by our side, and whenever we are going through the material, we can just refer the syllabus. But the fact is that when we memorize the syllabus, whenever we are coming across any material, whether it is a static book like Lakshmikant or newspaper, and especially newspaper. So in newspaper, we come across various different news articles that have been published. And when we are going through those news articles, we should be able to correlate. So the news which I am reading, so where I can correlate, whether I can correlate it to GS1, GS2, GS3 or GS4. And every time if you open the syllabus in order to correlate that, then it will not be beneficial. So once you come across any article, then in your brain itself that process should run, and you should be able to correlate saying that this particular article, it belongs to GS1. This particular article has information pertaining to GS2. This particular article has information pertaining to GS3. So in order to build our strategy in that fashion, so the first step would be to memorize the syllabus, and also at the same time understand the syllabus at the superficial level. So in this video, we'll be trying to decipher the syllabus and try to understand it at the superficial level. And similarly, in the subsequent videos, we'll be discussing the syllabus in detail. Okay, every point in detail we'll be discussing. So let us begin with GS1. So here, the first point, it says that Indian culture will cover the salient aspects of the art forms, literature and architecture from ancient to modern times. So we need to memorize it. Similarly, the other points. Modern Indian history from about the middle of the 18th century to the present times, significant events, personalities and issues. The freedom struggle, its various stages and important contributors from different parts of the country. Post-independence, consolidation and reorganization within the country. History of the world will include events from over the 18th century, such as Industrial Revolution, World Wars, redrawing of national boundaries, colonization, decolonization, political philosophies like communism, socialism, and capitalism, and their effect and their forms and effect on the society. Salient features of Indian society: diversity of India, role of women and women's organization, population and associated issues, poverty and developmental issues, urbanization, their problems and remedies. Effects of globalization on Indian society: social empowerment, communalism, regionalism and secularism. Salient features of the world's physical geography. Distribution of key natural resources across the world, including South Asia and the Indian subcontinent. Factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary and tertiary industries in different parts of the world, including India. Important geophysical phenomena such as earthquake, tsunami, volcano, cyclones, etc. Geographical features and their location. Changes in critical geographical features, for example, including water bodies and ice caps, and in flora and fauna, and the effect of such changes. So this is the syllabus that have been given by UPSC. When it comes to prelims, there is no detailed syllabus. So there is no boundary line. But when it comes to mains syllabus, so UPSC has given a proper boundary. So the questions will be asked on these topics itself. But the questions will not be static in nature. The questions will be dynamic in nature. So if you prepare a static content and if you try to reproduce the same in the form of answers in the mains, then probably you will not fetch good marks. So in order to fetch good marks, the static part has to be clubbed with dynamic part, and how to club static and dynamic part, those things we will be discussing in the subsequent videos. But for time being, we shall try to decipher the syllabus at the superficial level, so that when you start reading, so that when you start preparing notes, you should get an idea in what fashion you are supposed to notes. What fashion you are supposed to prepare notes, what are the important things that you have to keep in mind, what are the things which you can ignore. Okay, so let us try to decipher the syllabus at the superficial level. Okay. So here the first one is Indian culture will cover salient aspects of the art forms, literature and architecture from ancient to modern times. So we often initially we get confused. So what is the art form? What is literature? And what is architecture? So to help you out, first art forms. What is that art form? So art form consists of painting. It consists of sculpture. It consists of pottery, textile art, Gandhara art, Buddhist stupa art, etc. So there are many more art forms. So at the superficial, now you understood. Okay, whenever we say art forms, it means we are either referring to painting or sculpture or any other kind of art. Now, just to give you an idea, so what kind of questions might be framed? So this is the question of 2019. So actual 2019 UPSC mains question itself, which appeared in 2019. That is, highlight the Central Asian and Greco-Bactrian elements in the Gandhara art. Okay, so this is a question pertaining to art. So they have asked what kind of influence did Central Asia have on Gandhara art? What kind of influence does Greco-Bactrian element has on Gandhara art? So in order to understand this question, first you need to understand what is, or you need to know what is Gandhara art. So what are its features? So which feature have been borrowed from Central Asia? Which feature have been borrowed from Bactrian, Greco-Bactrian? So these questions, they give you a clue in what fashion you have to prepare. Subsequently, when you are preparing, it will just give you an idea. So what are the various points that you have to keep in your mind while preparing the notes? So this was about what arts. Next, literature. Generally, if you look at the previous year question papers, questions of UPSC, you will come to know that UPSC generally focuses on literature, which helps to recreate the history of India. Because when it comes to history of India, we do not have one single book which gives us the complete information of all the ancient and medieval history. So we have various sources. So always UPSC focuses on sources which helps us to understand our history properly. So if you refer the previous year questions, then you will get an idea. So one or two I have included here. So when it comes to literary sources, it may be books. Generally we refer to books. It may also be paintings. Sometimes even paintings also reveal the story of that particular period. So when I say literature, sometimes it may be Indian sources. Some books might be written by Indians, or some books might be written by foreigners. So foreigners who have visited India, so they have written accounts of India. So those books will act as a source for recreating India's history. Okay, recreating India's history. So an example based on previous year. So Pala period Buddhism related sources. Next, Krishna Deva Raya of Vijayanagara. So a previous year a question had appeared, okay, on this. Next, they focus on foreign sources, foreign travelers. So how the accounts of the foreign travelers help us to recreate the history of India. So these are the various important points which fall under literature. Similarly, Bhakti movement developments can be considered as part of literature. Next, Taxila University and Nalanda University, which were famous universities, again they all form part of literature. Okay, they may form part of literature as well as art as well, and even sometimes even architecture as well. Okay, but now we got an idea what does literature mean. So literature mean some books or some written documents which helps to recreate the history, or which helps us to understand the Indian history. Okay, Next, one example here is 2020 question. Persian literary sources of medieval India reflect the spirit of the age. So what does it mean? So what was the life of medieval India? So Persian literacy or Persian literary. So the books which have been written in Persian language, so they give us information about the medieval India. So we have to write an answer for this. So in order to answer this question, we need to know about the various Persian literary sources and what do they mention about the medieval India's lifestyle and all. Based on that, we'll be able to create answer. So we got an idea what kind of questions are asked when it comes to literature. Okay, literature. Next, when it comes to architecture, again the topic is very vast. Here I included few examples. So architecture may be rock cut architecture. So rock cut architecture we find at many places across India. It may be Badami, it may be Aihole, or it may be Ajanta and Ellora in Maharashtra. These are just few examples. Next, monuments like Taj Mahal, Gol Gumbaz. So example, these comes under architecture. Next, Mesolithic rock cut architecture. Again, they are part of architecture. Next, when we discuss about Indus Valley civilization. So Indus Valley civilization, again, the few of the buildings and all which were constructed during Indus Valley civilization. So all these they come under what broader topic called as architecture. Next, temple architecture. Just examples I have taken: Nagara, Dravida, Vesara. So they are different temple architectural styles. So in broader manner, so all these topics they fit under architecture. So if at all UPSC asks any topic, any question on monuments or Indus Valley civilization, then broadly they come under a topic called as architecture. So here we understood about the first point of the syllabus, that is Indian culture will cover salient aspects of the art forms, literature and architecture from ancient to modern times. Okay, modern times. So again, this is a question on the rock cut architecture represents one of the most important sources of our knowledge of early Indian art and history. Discuss. So again, this will help us it will guide us in what order to prepare for the mains examination. Okay, so in what way we have to prepare our notes. Next, modern Indian history from about the middle of the 18th century until the present, significant events, personalities, issues. So again, modern history, it's too vast, but here just to make you understand few of the things I have just tried to decipher. So what is present in syllabus? Significant events, significant personalities, significant issues. Okay, so I have taken just a few examples. So what are the significant events, important developments that have taken place? So first war of Indian independence. It's a significant event which has happened, which has taken place in India's history. Okay, India's history. Next, formation of Indian National Congress in 1885. So we have already discussed about these topics in detail in a separate video. You can refer the same. But here we are trying to decipher the syllabus. What exactly this syllabus means. So this is an important event. Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement. So these are all significant events of modern India. Okay, modern India. Next, significant personalities. So there are many personalities, but just I have listed few of them here. So it may be Mahatma Gandhi ji. And when I say personalities, or when they say personalities, they are not speaking only about the Indian personalities. They are also referring to foreign personalities. For example, Curzon. So what kind of impact Curzon's policies had on India? What kind of impact Dalhousie had on India? So all these questions again they can focus on foreign personalities as well. Similarly, A.O. Hume, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Subhash Chandra Bose, Jawaharlal Nehru, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So we need to understand about the various famous personalities and their contribution in India's freedom movement, okay, or their contributions in Indian history. Next, significant issues. Again, just I have listed one or two issues here. So in history, we will be coming across some issues like MacDonald Award, Ilbertville controversy. So what are these? So again, we will be discussing in history classes. So if at all you want to know about them, you can refer our videos pertaining to history. This is just an overview of the syllabus. So you can look at this question. So evaluate the policies of Lord Curzon and their long-term implications on the national movement. So Lord Curzon, he is a personality. So what kind of impact his policies had on India? So this we have to evaluate. So now it will give us an idea. Whenever we are preparing with respect to personalities, what are the various key points that we have to prepare with respect to those personalities. Okay, those personalities. So this is just a question of 2020. Next, the third point in the syllabus, freedom struggle, its various stages and important contributions from different parts of the country. Now, the second point and third point, they almost appear similar, or there are some overlapping things as well. Need not get confused. So there is no clear-cut demarcation that a question will be asked on second point or third point. No. So there are some overlapping things as well. Now, when it comes to freedom movement, okay, freedom struggle, its various stages. So when it comes to India's freedom, we got freedom in 1947. So did we get freedom in one go? There were many protests, or there were many movements which preceded it. So we are aware of many such movements. For example, Swadeshi movement. Okay, in 1905. Next, non-cooperation movement, 1920s. In 1930s, civil disobedience movement. So Quit India movement. So these various stages. So these are the various stages. Again, in detail, we have discussed about these various stages in topics of history. So you can refer those videos to understand them. But here we got, when we say various stages of freedom struggle, then these are the examples of various stages. Next, important contributions from different parts of the country. Now, when I say important contributions from different parts of the country, so again, there is no clear-cut syllabus here. Now, we have to give some freedom for ourselves, so to explore this topic in different direction. So what are the different types of contributors? So when we say contributors, now most probably we'll be referring to male contributors, but from UPSC point of view, we need to create a diversity. So who are the female freedom fighters, and how have they contributed? Okay, how have they contributed? Next, whether only the northern part of India has contributed or southern part of India also has contributed. Whether eastern part has participated or only western part has participated. So these are the various angles from which we have to think. So through this thought process, the notes which we make, and finally with the help of these notes, when we create answers in the mains, then definitely our answer will be diverse, and it will definitely create an impression in the evaluator. So from that perspective, here I am just presenting the various angles from which we can prepare our notes. For example, now important contributions. I have just taken an example. I said about women. Now similarly, whether there is a contribution from tribals, I included one example. There are many more examples here, but Birsa Munda. Okay, so he was a leader of what? Munda rebellion. So in this fashion, you can mention about the different sections of the society which participated. Okay, which participated. Next, again, important contributors. Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, Bhagat Singh, Dadabhai Nauroji, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So this is one angle. Next, contributors from different parts of the country. So just have taken an example. So in what fashion we are supposed to prepare? Now if we look Swadeshi movement, so in detail we have discussed it in a separate topic. But in Swadeshi movement, we'll understand that, so in different parts of the country, it was taken by different personalities. For example, to Punjab and northern part of India, it was taken by Lala Lajpat Rai and Ajit Singh. In southern part of India, to Madras, it was taken by Chidambaram Pillai. To Delhi, it was taken by Syed Haider Raza. So these points we have already prepared from prelims point of view. But when it comes to mains, so we have to consolidate these things at one point. And whenever a question is asked, we should be able to express it. So this is just an example as to how we are supposed to prepare notes when it comes to topics like this. Okay, so this is contributors from different parts of the country. So Swadeshi movement, so for this contribution from different parts of the country, so from northern India, from southern India, from Delhi. So these kind of examples, they help us to what? Prepare our notes properly. Next, civil disobedience movement. Similarly, as we discussed above, so Dandi March in Gujarat, it was led by Gandhiji. Similar kind of march in Tamil Nadu, C. Rajagopalachari. So it indicates that not only the northern part of India, but even southern part of India contributed to civil disobedience movement, and it was led by C. Rajagopalachari in Vedaranyapuram, Tamil Nadu. Similarly, K. Kelappan in Payanur, Kerala. Next, as I mentioned, UPSC always expects diversity in the answer. So if you only mention about few personalities, then probably your answers may fail to create an impression. So if at all you are able to break that monotony and mention that contributions, women contributors. So one or two examples. So there are many examples in history, but I just used one or two examples here. One is Annie Besant. Next, Sarojini Naidu in Darasana Satyagraha. And next, in 1857 revolt, Rani Lakshmibai played a very important role. So when you mention such kind of contributions from women as well, again it will create an impression. Next, different community. So whether only Hindus participated or even Muslims participated. So example, so Muslim contribution. So in Swadeshi movement, what was the contribution of Muslim? In non-cooperation movement, what was the contribution of Muslim? Similarly, civil disobedience, Quit India movement. So here I just try to give you the various angles from which we can prepare. Okay, from which we can prepare. Next, approaches. Now when it comes to freedom, so everyone did not have the same idea. Different sections had different idea of achieving the freedom, and ideologies were different. So based on the ideology, so Congress had a different ideology. Next, communists and left, they had a different ideology. Rightists had a different ideology. Revolutionaries like Bhagat Singh, they had a different ideology. Socialists. So we also need to mention about the contributions of different sections of society, like different ideologies. Okay, different ideologies. Okay. So in this fashion, we are supposed to prepare our what material or notes. So here an example question of 2020. Since the decade of the 1920s, the national movement acquired various ideological strands and thereby expanded its social base. So see here. So what they are expecting is what were the different ideologies that have contributed to the national movement after 1920s. Okay, in the 1920s. So based on the discussion above, if we prepare our what notes, then definitely such kind of questions can be tackled very easily. Okay, tackled very easily. Next, post-independence consolidation and reorganization within the country. So generally, initially when we are preparing, we do not understand these terms. So post-independence consolidation and reorganization. So I'll just give you an example here. So formation of state on linguistic basis. This is just an example. This is not a complete what syllabus for this topic, but just an example. Now, after independence, Andhra Pradesh was created as a first state based on language. Based on language. So this example falls under which topic? Reorganization. It falls under the topic called as reorganization. So similarly, there are a few other examples mentioned over here. But what does UPSC focus on? So UPSC, it focused on topics like this. So after reorganization, after formation of new states, whether it was beneficial to the population or not, whether it is beneficial to India or not. So these kind of questions it will frame. That is why when we are preparing topics on reorganization and consolidation, we have to keep the demand of the examination in mind, and that can be understood with the help of the question which has appeared. Okay, question which has appeared. See here, discuss whether formation of new states in recent times is beneficial or not for the economy. In 2018, they asked a question, formation of new states. So recently, Telangana was formed in 2014. So whether such kind of ideas, whether they are beneficial or not beneficial. So we have to discuss. So in order to understand or to answer these questions, we need to have certain information. So this information before the examination, we have to prepare. So impact of the formation of states on economy, so beneficial or not. So when we are making comparison, we'll be making comparison through various parameters. For example, it may be with respect to GDP, or it may be with respect to literacy rates, poverty, etc. Okay, so again it will give you an idea. When you are preparing with respect to reorganization, so whether economically it has benefited or not, so for comparison we require economic parameters, for example GDP, literacy rates. Okay, so this should give us an idea as to how we are supposed to prepare our notes when it comes to this topic. Okay, post independence consolidation and reorganization. Next, history of the world will include events from 18th century such as Industrial Revolution, world wars, redrawing of national boundaries, colonization, decolonization, political philosophies like communism, capitalism, socialism. So first let us divide these topics and understand one by one. So first we need to understand what is Industrial Revolution. So here we are not given the definition of Industrial Revolution. You are supposed to do. We are just giving you a direction as to how you are supposed to prepare the notes for these topics. So Industrial Revolution, the question that we are supposed to ask, what is Industrial Revolution? How many Industrial Revolutions are there? First Industrial Revolution, Second Industrial Revolution, etc. So where did it start? Where did the first Industrial Revolution start? Okay, what was its impact? Whether it had a positive impact or negative impact? Similarly, Second Industrial Revolution, where did it start? What was its impact? Positive or negative? Similarly, we came across a topic called as World Wars. So there were two World Wars. One is First World War, Second World War. So World Wars took place between which all countries? So what was the reason for starting the World War? So what was the result of the World Wars? So these are the various questions which we have to ask to ourselves, and based on that we have to prepare our content. Okay, prepare our content. Next, redrawing of national boundaries. Just I have taken one example, or one or two examples. So Radcliffe Line. So this is a boundary line between India and Pakistan. Okay, Pakistan. So if any question is asked based on the boundaries, so they fall under this topic. Okay, fall under this topic. Next, we need to understand colonization. So what is colonization? So foreigners having control over the other country. So this process we call it as colonization. So decolonization. So when colonization, the reverse process of colonization, we call it as decolonization. So all these terms understanding we need to have. Next, political philosophies like communism. Okay, so in case of communism, what is communism? So majority of the production should happen with under the control of the government. Capitalism, complete production should happen under the private sector. Socialism, a mix of what? Private plus government. So first we need to understand these topics at the superficial level. So don't go with respect to these topics for in the deeper level. At the first level, just try to understand these topics at the superficial level. Now, whenever you are reading newspaper, so often you come across articles where you will find terms like communism, capitalism, and socialism. So when you come across such kind of articles, any point which appears appealing to you, and if you think that that point can be beneficial for you in mains, then definitely you can take note of that. What such kind of statements. Okay. So first at the superficial level, try to understand these topics. Next, for the previous year questions, and here I included one question. So to what extent Germany can be held responsible for causing 2 world wars? Discuss critically. So it's a 2015 question. So here again the question for this question falls broadly under this topic. So it has a mention about world wars. So the question is, to what extent Germany was responsible for the world wars? Okay. So now, in order to answer this question, beforehand itself, we have to prepare notes for the world wars. So who started it? It happened between which 2 countries? And what are the reasons for that? If all the content was ready, then definitely this question would have been easily answered. Okay, easily answered. So this gives us an idea in what fashion we are supposed to prepare. Next, salient features of the Indian society, diversity of India. So when it comes to Indian society, so there are diverse features. So the features may be with respect to what? Family system. So this is a feature of Indian society. Next, caste system is a feature of Indian society. Religion, language, employment, political systems, geographical diversity. So there are a lot of diversities. So all these, this speaks about the Indian society as well as diversity of India. Okay, diversity of India. So we have caste-wise what features? Next, religion-wise, Hindu, Muslim, etc. Language-wise, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi. Okay, so in this fashion we have diversity. So on this, what kind of questions can be asked? What makes Indian society unique in sustaining its culture? So in order to answer this question, first we need to know about our culture. So our culture consists of what? Composite culture, different language, different religion, and all those things. But despite that, how India is sustaining it? So this question can be answered only if we have a clear understanding about the topics which have been listed here. Okay, which have been listed here. So we need to understand. So Indian society means it consists of so many features, and we need to understand in detail about the various features. Okay, various features. Next, role of women and women's organization. Role of women and women's organization. Population and associated issues. Poverty and developmental issues. Urbanization, their problems and remedies. Now when we say role of women, now we have to question ourselves, what are the different roles played by women? So whether a woman plays a single role? No, multiple role. Again, it depends upon the environment. In family, in work environment, it varies. So role of woman in family, as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter, etc. Next, role of women in politics. So if women participates in politics, then what kind of impact it will have? So some examples also I have mentioned here, Sarojini Naidu and Indira Gandhi. Similarly, if woman is given what? Equal representation in judiciary, then we can uphold gender justice. So these are the various points which we can quote in the mains answers. So we have to think in this angle and prepare our notes. So we have to also keep ready some data pertaining to women. For example, sex ratio. So what is the population of women for every 1,000 men? So that we call the sex ratio. So what is the present sex ratio? And we also need to know top sex ratio performing states and worst sex ratio performing states and all. Okay, so they can be handy when we write mains answers. Next, we saw role of women's organization. So there are many women's organizations which we witness in our day-to-day life while reading newspaper and all. We encounter them. But here I have listed 1 or 2. So Ministry of Women and Child Development. It's a women's organization. National Commission for Women. So we need to understand what are the roles played by these organizations, in what way these organizations are helping women's empowerment. Okay. So from that angle we have to think. Next, when it comes to population and associated issues, so we need to understand various terms related to what population and associated issues like fertility rate, population density, shelter issue, education issue, health issue, so all these things. So whenever population increases, then these are the various challenges that we will be facing. So what are these various challenges and what are the various remedies that we can take in order to help these address these problems? So these are the various angles from which we are supposed to think. Okay, think and prepare our notes. Next, poverty and developmental issues. So first we need to understand what is poverty. Okay, how do we define poverty? So while reading the newspaper, you come across committees like Rangarajan Committee, Tendulkar Committee. So what do they say about poverty? And whenever there are any schemes related to what elimination of poverty at the global level, one organization which plays a very important role, that is World Bank. So what kind of programs has World Bank started in order to alleviate poverty? So these are the various angles from which we are supposed to prepare our notes. Okay, prepare our notes. And also in this context, so the schemes of various ministries are very important. For example, Manarega, so helps to provide employment. Next, National Food Security Act, it upholds the food security of the country. So in various different ways, so these schemes help to address the poverty. Okay, address the poverty. So even we are supposed to prepare our notes keeping these things in mind. Next, urbanization, their problems and remedies. So when we say urbanization, we should understand the various common problems faced by urbanization. So one is pollution. So it may be air pollution or water pollution. Okay. Next, solid waste management is another challenge. Okay. So these are the various problems. So what are the various solutions that we can propose to overcome these problems? Okay. So these are the various angles from which we are supposed to think and prepare notes when it comes to topic of urbanization, their problems and remedies. Similarly, electronic waste, housing problem, okay, problem of flooding, okay, how we can prevent flooding. So these are the various angles from which we can think, okay, which we can think. Similarly, infrastructure, there is no proper road, there is no proper electricity supply, there are no proper hospitals and schools. So where schools have to be built, how they have to be built. So these are the various angles from which we have to think. So just a question of 2019. Empowering women is the key to control population growth. So whenever we empower women, so whether it will have a positive impact on population growth is the question that has been asked. And in order to answer this question, if we have prepared notes properly, keeping all those various things in mind, then definitely we can tackle this question, okay, in a very comprehensive manner. Next, effects of globalization on Indian society. So we all know globalization. So what is globalization? So globalization, the phenomenon of interconnectedness of the world. So this globalization on Indian society, whether it has a positive impact or negative impact. So these are the, so when we want to assess whether it is having positive impact or negative impact, we have to take various parameters. For example, what kind of impact it has on GDP growth, what kind of impact it has on human development indicators. So later on we'll be discussing in detail about the human development indicators, but here we need to understand that globalization, whether it has a positive impact or negative impact. Next, on women, globalization has a positive impact or negative impact. Okay, so when we are discussing with respect to women and the effect of globalization, we have to discuss with the help of parameters. So we have to consider certain rate, for example, maternal mortality rate, fertility rate. Okay, so these are the various parameters that we have to take note of, okay, while assessing the impact of globalization. Next, similarly on elders. So what kind of impact it will have on elders? Okay, so there are many parameters here. So remittances increased. So there are various parameters which we have to consider. Next, on children. So if you look at children, so globalization, whether it has helped children's education, whether it has helped to enhance children's nutrition, mortality. So from this angle we have to think. So just I am giving you the various angles from which we can think when it comes to this topic. Okay, when it comes to this topic. Effect of globalization on cultural diversity. Effect of globalization on diversity and plurality. Effect of globalization on local identity. So this is the question of 2016. We'll get an idea what kind of questions are framed. To what extent globalization has influenced the core of cultural diversity in India? So this question can be answered if you have prepared our notes comprehensively, keeping those things in mind. Next, social empowerment. Social empowerment, communalism, regionalism and secularism. So here we need to understand what is social empowerment. So within social empowerment, it consists of women empowerment. It consists of empowerment of poor and marginalized. So we need to know about the various schemes which the government has initiated for the empowerment of women. For example, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Similarly, the schemes that have been initiated by the government to empower the poor and marginalized section. For example, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana. So these are the various angles from which we are supposed to think. Next, schemes related to senior citizens. Okay, schemes related to the empowerment of disabled group. Next, for the empowerment of scheduled tribes, you can also mention about few acts. For example, Forest Rights Act, which has been introduced for the welfare of scheduled tribes. So these are the various angles through which we are supposed to think and prepare notes from exam point of view. Next, we also need to know about the various indicators of social empowerment. Okay, so equality in society is an indicator of social empowerment, women empowerment. So these are the various criteria. Okay, various criteria which we need to understand. Next, communalism. So at the superficial level, we need to understand communalism. So whenever there are differences between two communities and a fight and occurs, so all that phenomena we need to understand. So what are the reasons for this communalism? What are the effects of communalism? Next, regionalism. At the superficial level, so we generally fight. So I am a Kannadiga, you belong to Maharashtra, you belong to Tamil Nadu, you belong to Uttar Pradesh. So this is called as regionalism. So what are the causes for regionalism? And what are the effects of regionalism? So we need to prepare our notes. Next, secularism. So India is a secular country, but the type of secularism which is practiced in India is different from the type of secularism which is practiced in Western countries. So we need to understand what is secularism and how Indian approach of secularism differs from the approach which is prevalent in other countries. Okay, other countries. So this is again previous year question of 2018. Communalism arises either due to power struggle or relative deprivation. Argue by giving suitable illustrations. Okay. So this question helps us to understand the demand of the examination. Next, salient features of the world's physical geography. Okay. So when we say physical geography, so what are the various things that we are supposed to focus? So we can focus on deserts. We can focus on what oceans, coral reefs, mangroves, islands, atmosphere, vegetation. So these are all the broader topics which fall under physical geography. So we need to understand about the salient features. So what are the salient features? For example, where deserts are present, where mangroves are present. So what are the problems being caused to oceans? So what are coral reefs? So these are the various things which we need to know about the world's physical geography. Okay, world's physical geography. So here one example. Explain the factors responsible for the origin of ocean currents. How do they influence regional climates, fishing and navigation? So this gives us an idea in what way we are supposed to prepare for the topic called as salient features of the world's physical geography. World's physical geography. Now next, distribution of key natural resources across the world, including South India, South Asia and Indian subcontinent. Okay. So distribution of key natural resources. Which are the key natural resources? For the development of the nation or for the development of the world, we require these key natural resources. For example, it may be coal or it may be iron, steel, uranium, water, solar, wind, etc. So we need to know at the broader level, so where the concentration of a particular resource is more and where it is less. So from the global perspective also we need to know, and also within India we need to know. Okay, within South Asia as well as within India. Okay, within India. Next, apart from that, we also need to know at the superficial level factors responsible for the location of industries. So now when we look into the factors may be geographical factors, like whether raw material is available or not, whether land is available or not. Next, whether labors are available or not. Next, whether proper transportation facility is available or not, market is available or not. So these are the various angles from which we are supposed to think and prepare our notes. Okay, prepare our notes. Next, non-geographical factors. For example, whether there is a proper investment climate or not, whether government policies are supporting or not. So these are the other non-geographical factors which we have to take into account while establishing the industry. So these are the factors responsible for the location of industries. And next, here we also come across terms called primary, secondary and tertiary. So we need to understand the difference between what is primary sector industry, what is secondary sector industry, what is tertiary sector industry. So where are these industries located? And next, which industry has the more capacity to generate employment? So these are the various angles in which we are supposed to think. Okay, in which we are supposed to think. Next, previous year question of 2020. Account for the present location of iron and steel industries away from the source of raw material by giving examples. So presently the steel industries are located in a place which is far away from where it is being mined. Okay, so why is that gap? Why they are located at such a far distance is the question. So if we regularly read a newspaper and many times we come across all these various points, and if you have consolidated and prepared our notes properly, then such questions can be tackled very easily. Okay, tackled very easily. Next, important geophysical phenomena such as earthquakes, tsunami, etc., geographical features and their location, changes in critical geographical features and in flora and fauna, and the effects of such changes. So let us try to decipher. So what are various geophysical phenomena? We need to understand what is earthquake, tsunami, volcano, cyclone. So what is earthquake, how it is formed, what are its consequences. Similarly, about the tsunami, volcano and cyclone, we need to understand. Next, geographical features. So what are the important geographical features? When I say geographical features, it may be mountains, or it may be rivers, or coastal regions, plains, deserts, oceans, mangroves. So all these are examples of various geographical features and their location. So when we say location, we need to understand. So mountains. So if I take Western Ghat as an example, so where is Western Ghat located? It is spread across 6 states, starting from Goa to Tamil Nadu. So if I take river, Ganga river system, so across how many states it has spread? From Uttarakhand to West Bengal. So these are the various information which we are supposed to know when it comes to physical features. Okay, physical features. Next, we saw what? Changes in critical geographical features. Changes in critical geographical features and in flora and fauna as the effect of such changes. Now we have ocean. Okay, so it's a critical what? Critical ecosystem. So if there is some change in the ocean, for example, if ocean, there is a phenomenon called as ocean acidification, and ocean acidification is not good. Okay, it's not good. So the acidity of the ocean water will increase. So what kind of impact this ocean acidification will have on flora and fauna? Flora means vegetation, fauna means animals. So again, these things we need to understand. So from this perspective, we have to understand and we have to prepare our notes. One more example is glaciers melting. So when glaciers in the Himalayas melt, so what kind of impact they will have on the surrounding region, on the flora and on the fauna. So these are the various perspectives which we have to keep in our mind while preparing the notes for this for these various topics. So if you look at the question of 2020, will get a clarity. How will the melting of Himalayan glaciers have a far-reaching impact on the water resources of the India? Okay, 2020. So if we have prepared these topics thoroughly, properly, by understanding the demand of the examination, then definitely we can answer this question. Okay, answer this question. So in this video, we have just made an attempt to give you an overall perspective of what the syllabus of GS1 constitutes of. Okay. Similarly, in the subsequent videos, we will be discussing about these various topics, and we'll also be discussing how to approach and answer to these various questions in the subsequent classes. So for all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.